As for the doc, besides the Miami comparison, I
Now,
was hoping to hear
so
more
you're
about.
saying like the 2006 to 2009 Urban Meyer era was the last essential highlight. Basically Miami's been bad for 20 years.
Mhm.
Like then back go to 2001 2002 team, and now they've been bad. So that's kind of what you're saying is that represented like the last heyday. And I do think it's interesting because you do have a recruiting class in, and you've got this doc that's going to come out and kind of speak to the Gator glory years, as it were. And it is one of those things like, are they going to, the fan base is probably going to react to this in a certain way. Are you going to be kind of going to this, yeah, that was us in our heyday stuff, which I think is extremely dangerous. I don't think it's worked for Miami. And I think when we first started struggling in the early 2000s, the biggest mistake we made was just thinking, oh, we're just not playing Florida State football right now. We're not saying, yeah, you're not playing Florida State football because you're not capable of it. You're not good enough. So stop talking about something that doesn't apply to you. And I think you got to go from the ground and create something else. And I think the doc did, like when Urban did come in, he created a mentality. He created a structural toughness to the group that's fundamental to sowing the seeds of success later. But the danger, and I think that if you look at the four pieces of the thing, the danger is when you're getting those high-level guys who weren't part of the climb, really. They're kind of coming in at the top. The lesson there is they seem to come in with a high level of entitlement, and were really difficult to manage.
Yeah,
and I do point the finger at Urban. He's way weaker as a person than I thought. Like just listening to him in that documentary, way weaker of a person and leader than I ever imagined him to be. I was shocked.
I almost thought
saw.
that the documentary performed a sexual act in a way of trying to make Urban seem bigger than he was. They were literally trying to the directors of this documentary were literally trying to shove Urban's down our throats. No pun intended. I'm sorry to the women and children out there listening, but that's what it was out there.
That's what I told Pink. I told Pink that they were trying. It almost seemed like they were trying to protect him in some way.
Yeah, they were, and I wanted to hear about Aaron Hernandez and the guy that he supposedly killed at Florida. I wanted to hear about more controversial stuff.
So my thing is they should have took Urban Meyer and Tebow out of the production of this. You could tell that they had a heavy imprint on how this documentary was made, and the directors did do a poor job. Now, on the football end, I think they did an awesome job.
Yeah.
On the football side, but that's good for like Florida Gator fans, right? We don't have anything to cheer for now. We can look back in the glory days. That's literally my era. Those guys are a year younger or older than me. Like that's my era. That I can remember.
You were
that
in college during those
I was
years.
in
basically.
college or high school during that era. That was awesome. But other people and a part of myself did want to see the other, like the other side, and you have to dive more into it. You didn't even give us a line about Cam Newton. You showed one Cam Newton highlight. You didn't even throw a line like he stole laptops, he had to get kicked off the team. But also, like Pink said pre-show, okay, how did those practices go with him and Tebow? Were there any moments where he looked better than Tebow throwing the ball? I'm sure.
Here, I do have a story. A guy that I work with was a Gator at that time. Did not play football, but he was around. He actually had an opportunity at I think it was like a fraternity event, to play catch with Tim and Cam. And he said, you do.
It was a difference, big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
When the ball came out of Cam's hand, it was different.
Yeah.
And he said it was easy. It was easy to tell. Now, for me as a real sports person, I wanted to, what were the other guys on the team, saying? You have to think, these guys aren't idiots. It's somebody in that locker room had to have been thinking, would we be a little bit better with this Cam guy right now? For real. That's real stuff. And then the other guy that has always fascinated me, and to me the greatest Gator that ever lived, maybe Emmitt Smith. Percy Harvin. But
was he even involved in the did he even get an interview?
He didn't get interviewed at all.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What?
But he was that guy to
They talked a little bit about him, but like Pink said, he could have had his own piece of the doc.
And it was I thought it was very revealing. You've got Tebow was the god of Florida, but he had to miss Harvin had to miss a game. and they
Yeah,
were
the
struggling.
Alabama game.
But all the dudes on the team like, that were getting interviewed in the thing was like, yeah, like we didn't have our best player. Like not even like dead serious. It's like you got the Gator God and your best player's this other dude. Why are we not talking about that guy a little bit more?
And also the Chris Leak thing. Like, that was a huge thing. Why? First of all, you have to get Chris Leak for this dog.
Yeah.
You just have to.
Was he not involved because of the stuff he got into here?
Maybe. Oh, here? I don't know.
Because it was stuff with like underage
yeah,
girls
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
They might have wanted him involved.
Maybe,
in
but they
anything.
could have at least talked about that part more.
Yeah.
Like the him and Tebow thing. Like you could always tell there was dysfunction or like Chris Leak didn't like coming out of the games for Tim Tebow.
Oh, it was embarrassing.
It's
As a starting
embarrassing.
quarterback, yeah.
It was all of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
And they should have went into that more. It was a lot of meat left off the bone on this doc. It could have been a classic. I think it just came out being okay, and only because of the football part, they did get into the football
And
part.
it really, like, if you looked at it, like 80% of the talking was Urban, Tebow, Seiler, and
Spikes. Yep.
And the more diversity would have been better because there's everybody's got a story.
Everybody's got a story, but shout out to Seiler. Giving
Yeah,
Orlando,
no, yeah.
Pine
giving
Hills,
Orlando
yeah.
Pine Hills a shot, and that's
Yeah.
like within the first 5 minutes.
One
of
of
the
my
doc.
favorite parts of the whole thing was when he's talking about the meeting with his parents in Meyer.
Oh
And he's
yeah,
on
yeah.
that,
He was
all
like,
the-
yeah, yeah.
all
The worst,
all the
man.
gold teeth.
I
and
like what he
everything
said
else.
about Pine Hills. He's like, if you want to play Grand
Grand
Theft
Theft
Auto
Auto.
in real life,
Yeah.
go to Pine
Go to
Hills.
Pine
Yeah,
Hills,
no,
man.
he was he was legit, man. He was really good at that.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things too, and I know he was a good player, but like you did see like how really deeply important he was to that group.
Yeah.
Like even more than just watching the games, like, and that's always fascinates me because and you've coached and we've been around sports a lot. Like there are guys that are significantly important, even bigger than what they show in the game because of just how they conduct themselves and how people react to them.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's for sure. So, they left a lot of meat on the bone. I didn't have the same takeaway that you did of Urban, but maybe because I know what he did for the Gators, because
So you're almost biased by it.
I'm probably almost biased by it. Even when he got to Jacksonville, started doing all that crazy stuff, like because he like we just haven't had a coach like him, like I don't know, since Spurrier, like a guy who could recruit, coach, and bring that element to where he can revive a program. We've never had it, and you're chasing that, and I can see that in the Florida leadership as they're looking for coaches, because we get the XO guy, then we get the recruiting guy, then we get the defense guy, we get the offense guy, and that's all of those elements Urban had in one person.
Yeah, you saw like a lot of strengths where I saw a lot of weakness. I thought him and Mullen were actually bad cultural fits for Florida. I think that neither one of them was from here or spent any time here, and I think they came in and they kind of almost didn't get what they were dealing with, like just culturally, and like Seiler and like that's not uncommon. Like
Yeah,
here.
but without those two, we don't have any those championships.
I get it. You're forever indebted to them, but step back and look at it and be like,
I don't give a shit.
I
don't care at all.
Then why are we
won.
talking? Then why are we talking
No.
about the
I
show?
don't care if they were bad people. I don't care if they were what they did.
Well, then there's nothing to talk about.
Anything
is my
outside
point.
of raping those boys, anything outside of like if they would have sexually assaulted Brandon Seiler or something like that, I understand. Anything outside of that is like they're heroes to me. But I'm saying there's a lot to talk about the doc because they left a lot of stuff out. But I'm just talking about as far as Urban and Dan, like you couldn't have found a better pair is what I'm saying for the Gators at that time.
Yeah, I guess.
That's all.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm underwhelmed by those guys.
They dominated.
I feel like I
You're
pulled.
underwhelmed by dominance.
They weren't undefeated.
Who cares? They won.
They lost some big games too.
That's going to happen in football. You can't win every year.
The way they lost.
They
the
won
manner
what?
they
Two
lost.
out of 4.
And
And
listening-
even when they lost,
and
they were in
listen-
the championship games.
But the listening,
Alabama
they were flat and
wonders.
crappy
But
against
they
Alabama.
made the national championship game like that. You know how great you have to be to even make the game, and also make the game. What 3 out of 4 years? Like that means something.
2 years they won.
No, I said to make the game 3
Which
out of
game?
4 years.
What
the,
game?
The Alabama game that they lost was the national championship.
No,
Am I
no,
wrong?
no,
It was
no,
the
no.
SEC.
Yeah,
SEC.
title game. Yeah.
SEC.
Yeah.
So how many years did they make the SEC championship game? Was it
3
out of 4? So
yeah.
that's what I mean. 3 out of
Yeah.
4, you make that SEC championship game.
Yeah.
Like that means something, especially at any time. At any time, doesn't matter.
I mean, Jesus, I don't. You're just overzealous with that. Like, I mean, they got smacked around by Alabama in that game. That was super disappointing. Then he left the job right after that, which is a bitch move. Didn't even see the season through. Left the job not to take another job immediately, and you abandon your guys before a bowl game.
No, that was
Dude, he's not a man of character.
No, he's not.
He is like, and
He's
that's what I'm saying. Like when I watched that, and again, given your thing, and I don't disagree. Like it seemed like he had a heavy hand in the production of this. And if you have all that going your way and still look like a turd, you are a turd.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that-
that was
understand
my
your point.
That was my big takeaway.
You watch this and it shined through. That was your
That he's just a
takeaway.
bum, man.
Yeah.
The one thing I was a little bit, I kind of at that point in time I was like, when he mentioned the Avery Atkins thing, when he was like, well, this is why I don't kick people off the team, and I'm like, you know what? That's actually like a great reason. And then I kind of thought more about it, and I'm like, I don't think that's. I think that's one isolated case. Like, it's not your responsibility. Like, that guy, because he lost football, goes in this just gigantic downward spiral, and you're like taking your loss to, his loss to, as a justification of why you're not kicking guys who are, raping girls or doing drugs and stuff off the team.
Well, and a couple things on that, because I'm not sure in the year. What year was he on the team for Urban? Do you remember?
It was supposed to be that 05-06 team.
Yeah.
He was
supposed to be on that. Yeah, that.
Wait, he
initial
did
team.
play a year though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it was Urban's first year he was on
Yeah,
the team.
yeah.
Urban recruited him or no?
That's a good question. I'm not
So
sure.
like
Yeah,
that
he did.
whole.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay, that whole that was a little weird, and it really felt like smarmy
It
justification
felt
for
forced.
what you
It
did.
felt, justification, and also all the stuff they left out. I found it interesting that they found a way to add that in. I felt like it was like a sentimental.
Well, that was self-serving for him.
That's
I found that they
self-serving.
didn't mention
Because if
anything
you
about
looked
Aaron
at-
Hernandez. Not
Yeah,
like
that was
they-
crazy.
I
one
wasn't.
thing.
I wasn't too upset about that. I just wanted more about that bar fight. But as far as Aaron Hernandez, there's like 2 Netflix. Aaron
Yeah,
Hernandez
but you
songs.
didn't
Yeah.
like you wanted to hear from those guys. You wanted to hear.
Yeah, I did.
You know,
yeah, I did. say that
literally,
too.
I would have like what are the little setup?
No,
He's
you're
sitting in
right.
the chair. You're like, I would have just gone, Aaron Hernandez.
Go.
Yeah. Whatever you want to say about it. Like,
God rest his soul.
I never saw it coming. Like, or whatever. Just you can't
Whatever you
not
wanna
say
say.
nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
that's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
And that was a cop out to me, but it's consistent with who he is as a person.
Who's that? Hernandez?
No, Urban.
Oh,
Meyer.
Urban, especially if he had which I do believe he had a hand in it. Yeah, for sure.
And then
for sure.
like the other, I mean, like even like it just like it did feel like a program out of control, like pretty early, as soon as they tasted any success, and that's on him.
Yeah.
That is on him.
And they kind of sped through it, like, there's people getting arrested, and we were fighting, and we were clubbing, and then the next thing you knew, they were in the 4th game of the season. The next
Yeah.
I had a huge issue with the sequencing of the seasons. It just was like, like season 2, when once they lost LSU, that season just disappeared. Then
Yeah.
other time, we're talking about fighting and everything else. Suddenly we're in game 3. It was just so stupid.
One thing another thing they did not mention Florida State not one time.
Yeah, that was also crazy.
Yeah.
And he was undefeated against us in his time there?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, like, again, that's another thing. It's like that's ridiculous.
Because they hit Miami.
Like,
They hit,
yeah,
they
they-
hit a
Yeah,
small Miami piece.
Yeah.
That's the only time we played
Nothing.
them,
Like,
yeah.
and that was the thing. Every season just skipped over that.
Because that's the
game.
huge rivalry.
And I don't remember. You
And
probably,
Miami
but you
hit the
probably
Florida State.
remember this though. You like the last. I think it was his last home game was Tebow at Florida Field against Florida State, and I remember like they had just like the cameras were just popping off I mean, that was an iconic image, and it didn't rate 30 seconds in that thing. That's pretty weak, man. That's really pretty weak. you know, against your
I didn't
ostensible
even think
rival.
about that. They kind of left Florida State out. That's a big rival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you remember what I'm saying. That
Yeah,
last one, I mean,
the last,
like
yeah.
that was one of those things.